A while back, we talked about some of the differences between Brits and Americans. Of course, we only scratched the surface with that video, so today we decided to give it another go. Here are 10 things that are different between British and American people. Number 10. Tea versus coffee. It's no surprise to anyone that British people drink a lot of tea. It's appropriate to suggest putting the kettle on in nearly every social situation, and if you don't, it's considered to be rather rude. Americans, on the other hand, are all about getting their morning cup of coffee. Even today, with tea coming back into style in the US, Starbucks had to close down all 3,300 of their Teavana stores in 2017 because tea simply wasn't popular enough in the US. Just about everyone knows about the Boston Tea Party and ultimately how Americans made the switch over to coffee, but not everyone knows when and how British people got into their tea drinking habit in the first place. In 1662, a Portuguese woman named Catherine of Braganza became the Queen of England. She drank imported tea every day and served it to her guests in the royal court. Since so many British people like to copy whatever happens to be in fashion with the royal family, other people started drinking tea as well, and the tradition, it just stuck. Number 9. The McMansion versus the traditional British home. In the United States, the farther west you go, the newer the houses become. On the East Coast, there are far more houses that have survived from the 1700s and 1800s, but for the vast majority of Americans, owning a brand new house is a status symbol that shows you have truly made it in society. After the end of World War II, the United States went through a period known as the baby boom, and there was a massive amount of houses built in suburban areas throughout the 1950s, and people settled down to have a family. Buying a home in a new housing development became part of the American dream. Unfortunately, not all of those houses were built to last forever. In fact, they were often put up so quickly that many have since been torn down and replaced with completely new homes. In England, they don't exactly have tons of building materials or land at their disposal, so there's a tradition of making do with what they've got. There is much more of a practice of reusing and repurposing what's already there. It's not at all uncommon for people to live in Victorian or Edwardian homes that have been fixed up or extended with each new generation. Even if they can afford to build a new house or completely modernize a home, many English people actually want to keep original details intact because it's part of the property's history and character. Number 8. Gym rats versus outdoor exercise. In America, almost everyone who exercises has a gym membership. Indeed, in America, there are millions of people who pay for a monthly membership but never use the gym. They just have it just in case they feel like going. In England, people do go to the gym as well, but there are far more people getting exercise by taking long walks or riding a bicycle. A study has shown that in the United Kingdom, 80% of people are not getting the recommended daily amount of exercise, and yet the percentage of obese people living in the country is lower, which would seem to indicate that they have healthier habits overall. Number 7. Christmas pudding versus apple pie. In both England and the United States, Christmas Day is usually spent with your family, exchanging presents around the Christmas tree. In the UK, Christmas dinner includes a cracker. This is something that's filled with toys, bad jokes, and a paper crown. Santa Claus is also called Father Christmas, and people eat Christmas pudding instead of apple pie, despite the fact that apple pie was actually invented in England. They don't have the massive light display in their front yards, but they do have the Christmas pantomime, which is an annual play usually put on by celebrities. The day after Christmas is called Boxing Day, which is a lot like Black Friday in the US. There are great sales in the shops, and everyone takes time to relax and unbox the presents that they received the day before. Number 6. Plastic bags versus totes. In nearly every store in England, they now charge a few cents for each plastic shopping bag that you use, and you always have to bag your own groceries. So it has become far more common to see people carrying reusable totes. In the United States, grocery stores like ShopRite have employees whose sole job it is to be a bagger, and plastic bags are given out for free. Items are bagged no matter what, even when it's totally unnecessary. In fact, Americans often have to go out of their way to insist to employees that they don't want a bag. Certain cities and states in the US have tried to cut down on using plastic bags to save the environment, but there has been a pushback from people who would rather have the convenience of having a free bag. Number 5. HVAC versus suck it up, it's the weather. Since it's generally cooler all year round, British homes almost never have air conditioning or ceiling fans. They simply open a window if they want some fresh air. Heat is different as well because it comes from radiators and fireplaces or wood stoves, whereas most American homes have central heating and cooling. In the United States, most people keep their houses and apartments at a comfortable 70 degrees no matter what the time of year. The reason for this goes back to number 9 and the fact that many British homes are so old that they cannot accommodate a modern HVAC system. In America, all newer houses are always built with central heating and cooling installed, so they might as well use it even if it racks up the energy bill. Number 4. Small talk versus silence. In America, it's common to make small talk with people that you're sitting next to on the train, in the elevator, or even with the cashier at the grocery store. And if you go down south, it's like a twilight zone where suddenly everyone is smiling at you and telling you to have a nice day. In the UK, though, it's very rare for people to talk to each other in a public place. In Great Britain, you're going to be met with a lot of silence. People don't generally make eye contact with one another either and will stare at their phones or read the newspaper on public transportation in order to avoid interacting with other people. According to The Guardian, a third of the population avoid small talk altogether because they fear having an awkward interaction, they want to be left alone, or they just honestly don't know what to say. Number 3. Extremes versus moderation. In America, people tend to have an all-or-nothing attitude when it comes to a lot of things, and there is a stereotype that they jump into doing something instead of thinking too hard about it first. For example, people do crash diets without thinking about the health consequences or jump into buying something simply because they have the impulse. Also, don't get me started on the ludicrously huge food portion sizes and those eating challenges. There is a stereotype that Brits are generally very sensible people who will think about something long and hard before they do it because they fear the consequences of something going wrong and tend to be much better at living life in moderation. They also tend to follow the rules and carry on traditions. Of course, this isn't always the case, and plenty of British people are capable of reacting based on their emotions, especially with the recent political debates over Brexit. Number 2. Mandatory vacations versus obscene amounts of overtime. In America, there is a culture of having a lot of pride in working hard because they are taught that it's the key to getting everything you want out of life. For some people, taking a break isn't even an option. Many full-time salaried positions offer only 1 week of paid vacation, and 1 in 4 Americans do not get any paid time off at all. That 1 week off is often used for family emergencies and sick days, and many people have staycations because they need the time to get their errands done on those days off. Burnout is very common in America, and there is a lot of talk recently about practicing self-care. In the United Kingdom, no one needs to be told about self-care because it's already a part of the culture. It's an actual law in the UK that every single person needs to get a minimum of 5 weeks of paid vacation as well as paid maternity leave. This means that everyone has time to relax, and even the average person can go on a 1 or 2 week international holiday. Number 1. Large versus small cars. In the UK, roads are usually very narrow because the streets in villages were often converted from the times when people were riding in horse-drawn carriages. It makes sense to drive smaller vehicles because they're often the only kind that will actually fit on the road. You almost never see anyone driving pickup trucks or really big SUVs unless they're actually a construction worker of some kind. In the US, roads are constantly being widened, and there is even a practice of having the government buy up property just so they can create new highways. So the size of a vehicle there, it's rarely a problem. Since they have so many options, people judge one another for the cars they drive. Many people feel obligated to buy a nice car even if they're not rich. To make matters worse, a study has shown that 80% of Americans have some sort of road rage. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you're looking for something else to watch right now, why not check out my other channel called Today I Found Out. It also does daily videos like this channel, just not in the top 10 format. You can find a link to that below. And as always, thank you for watching.